Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome along to the Rangers Rabble podcast. This is your old firm reaction at a much later time than normal, that has to be said. But we're trying out different things to see what works and what doesn't. But welcome along anyway. Maybe we'll discuss everything from the game, a little bit of the fallout as well, as it was a few hours ago, 4 hours it finished, 4 hours ago it finished. And we'll also get manager reaction as well. Joining me is Connor and Craig, the two C's. And that's not usually a good thing. But Connor, how are you?
Aye, not too bad. Not too bad at all. Obviously done the watch along with Alex. Some things that I was not happy with that we'll get into. But a draw was probably a fair result, wasn't it? But aye, not bad. Just eager to get in about it. I will just say though that I am holding Craig fully responsible for the reason we didn't win that game because he's on the reaction, and that is just how it works.
But we didn't lose it.
In fairness, yes, in fairness, we didn't lose, which usually happens when Craig's on. Craig, how are you, my friend? How's your phone?
I'm good. I was hoping to join the watch along for a little bit earlier. My phone was then playing funny buggers, and then I decided to drop my phone on the floor outside and smash my screen. So my afternoon's been lovely. But yeah, we'll get into the game and take my mind off it.
Yes, and everybody watching, please get your comments in as well. I will bring up as many comments as I can. And also, look, Sunday night, it's a bank holiday tomorrow. Yes, which I literally only found out on Friday, I think, that my daughter was off the day. No, I found out on Thursday because she was off on Thursday, back on Friday, off on Monday. Make that make sense. But anyway, we're not here to talk about school holidays. What are you having a wee drink tonight, folks? I will be upfront and honest with you. I'm on my first Madry of the evening, so this could be an eventful show. If we don't get days off, Martin, Tim, your life is time off, right? Don't kid anybody else on. Connor, Rangers won, Celtic won. In the grand scale of old firms, fairly uneventful.
Yeah, it was, I suppose, typical for the fact that it was very much a dead rubber. Look, I always believe that these games, irrespective of league positionings, they mean something. You know, just as much as when we played Celtic a few years ago and we had wrapped up the league comfortably, I still want us to win because you want to win those games, and vice versa with today. But it felt that way for large spells. There was still some effort put in, you have to say, on both sides. There was still some meaty challenges that flew in. So there was still an attempt to win it, but it wasn't exactly electric stuff. And given the state of affairs, sort of understandable. Although from a Rangers point of view, you were hoping that we could maybe finally get a win over the line at Ibrox, but we'll have to wait another week at least but for that to be the case.
We might have to wait until the start of next season where things are looking, to be brutally honest with you. Craig, I think Timothy Sharp's comment here, I think, sums it up perfectly. I thought the first half was decent, second half was a real end-of-season game. There was, apart from obviously the Celtic goal, there was very little in that second half.
Yeah, it was very much a game where one side have won the league and the other side are just going for bragging rights. But yeah, it was like a last day of the season type game in some respects, that both teams were just going through the motions. It seemed to pick up the last few minutes when both teams were trying to sort of get a winner. But I think once it went into injury time, bar the little chance there at the end, I think both teams were pretty content for a draw.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair comment. All right, let's hear for the manager then. Let's see what the manager had to say, and then we'll come back and discuss the game a little bit further.
Harriet, a draw in the end today. What's your overall take on that one?
Disappointed to just take a point. If you look at the game overall, I think we definitely deserve to get 3 points. I just spoke to the boys there. But in terms of effort and commitment, it was there. That's what I always expect from my team. Just that bit of quality when we're maybe breaking on teams, just that final pass or that final attempt on goal. We just need to sharpen up on. But look, again, I asked them for a full-blooded, committed performance, and certainly they gave me that. Just the only thing is, I think you look at the game, we should score another couple of goals. So it's a good thing to be disappointed. That's what I want them to be. So we need to obviously go and recover for a day and then come back in and look forward to next Sunday's game.
There were some big moments in that first half, maybe in particular with Leon's effort off the bar really early on. You touched on more goals. How big a difference could that have made? And then obviously Nico's the one that was just offside too.
Yeah, well, it's important when you miss a couple of chances, you just mentioned there. Leon off the bar, we had another couple of half chances. Then it becomes easy maybe to feel sorry for yourself, but I kept on at them. They kept going, and obviously I thought our goal was excellent. Some really good play, and that's something that we work on quite a lot. So it was pleasing to see that going. And then you obviously know Celtic are going to be disappointed. They're going to come out, which they did. But I thought we stood strong and we countered really well on them. It's just that, as I go back to that, just that final pass maybe can be better. Sorry. So that's something that we certainly need to work on.
There must be a lot that you can take from it too, I suppose, in being disappointed by the way the players have performed and to show that they can play at that level and give you what you want to see from them.
Yeah, look, I'm delighted with the commitment, the level of commitment. That made me really happy. I'm just demanding, and they kind of know that. I know they kind of know that. They do know that, and I know we can get better. But that's a case of just going and working even harder on the training ground, and we will, because I thought at times we broke really well. We broke at pace. It's just that final bit let us down. But look, the guys totally agree with it. They understand that, and that's something that we'll work towards this week when we come back into training.
Well, that was Barry's thoughts on the game. Connor, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that, and look, Emma's brilliant at her job, she does a lot at the club, but she needs to hold the mic a wee bit further away from herself, because all I could hear was the whole way through Barry's answers, right? But look, he says that we can take a lot for the game. To be honest with you, Connor, before we went into this game, not a single Rangers supporter would have been surprised if we'd won that game. Excuse me. And won it comfortably. We wouldn't be sitting here going, oh, I can't believe that we just beat Celtic comfortably. Nobody would be saying that, because we have said for so long that the players, they don't fear these games, they enjoy these games, they get up for these games. So how much really can we take out of that game?
Not a hell of a lot, because as you said, you're not surprised. You wouldn't have been if we'd won, because it's been the pattern this season. We've actually, apart from the first game when we get beat 3-0, we've turned up every time we've played Celtic this year. We're unbeaten now in the past three against them in the league. It took a penalty shootout and some, bad luck for us to get beat in the League Cup final as well. So, yeah, it's not as if you can look at this and go, well, we're actually finally shown we can do this, that, the next thing against them, because we know that. The only time you can learn things is when we're playing teams out with Celtic, like next week when we play Aberdeen, for example. That's a game you can maybe see, have we learned lessons for, because that's a game that we struggle to get up for and have done. So I'm not sure you can take an awful lot out of it, because we're just as capable of putting in a shocker next week. You just never know. And again, nothing would surprise you at this stage. It will be, by the time the curtain falls on this season, in a few weeks' time, it will very much be a story of what could have been, because we haven't been beaten in the league this season because of performances against Celtic. It's been the polar opposite. They've won the games against the rest of the league that we've not, and that's what's cost us. So, that still remains the same after today. They'll say as well that they made a couple of changes and whatever, and that's by the by as far as I'm concerned. You play with the cards you're dealt. Yeah, as I say, I don't take a lot from it, other than, it's another decent performance against Celtic, which we've been used to actually for most of this season.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I take from it, Craig, as well. I don't think that we have learned anything from the Old Firm games, because this season we have been the better team. But that's no consolation when your rivals are waving big shiny things at you at the end of the season.
No, like you say, today I would not have been surprised today if we'd gone out and won 2 or 3-0. Similarly, I wouldn't have been surprised if we'd lost 2 or 3-0 because it's just you can never know which Rangers team is going to turn up. What gets me is more the fact that we've taken 7 points out of 4 Old Firm games. If they'd taken 7 points, they'd have won the league by nearly 30 points. So that just shows you that it's not the games like today that's cost us. It's the other ones that have firmly put us in the mess, and they've been good, but they haven't had to be excellent. They've just had to do enough to get over the line because they know that every time they drop points, every time they don't win a game, we just hand them back the initiative. When we beat them a few weeks back, we pulled it back a little bit, and then suddenly we're even further behind because we can't get up for the other games. But yeah, I agree with Connor. I think next week, the last 3 games, albeit I did say earlier that I would have happily not won any of those 3 games if it meant we won today. But they will show Barry and the new owners which players are there for the fight. Like today was not the game you wouldn't get anything out of today.
No, I completely agree. Right, look, before we carry on with the game, there was a few incidents, Connor. Firstly, people throwing stuff. I've said before and I will say it again, right? People who throw stuff onto a pitch at players, right? Number one, grow up, right? Like, what is that achieving for you? You know, I've never understood that mentality, Connor. I don't get it. I think it's stupid. I think it shows a real lack of intelligence. And I'm not sitting here saying that I'm part of Mensa, right? But I can guarantee you I'm smarter than the people who throw stuff onto the pitch, right? So that's number one, right? Number two, the club came out and condemned the tifo from the Union Bears. So I would like to get your opinion on that. And number three, and again, this is beyond my realm of thinking. I would never slag or make fun of the deaths of anybody. Anybody, I don't care who it is, right? I wouldn't do it. And yet again, we see supporters with things on their phone that say 66 on it, mocking the people who died in the Ibrox disaster, right? So that's the 3 real negatives that I'm taking for the day. First of all, you've got the idiots throwing stuff onto the pitch. Number 2, you've got the tifo, right? So we'll discuss that in a bit more detail because I'm not really sure why the club have come out against it unless they know something's going to come for UEFA. And number 3, idiots mocking the dead. Connor, it's just mental.
It is disgraceful. There's no other word for it. I said during the watch along when me and Alex were doing that, and we've seen that Castle Weiro running onto the park to pick up the glass bottle, the half bottle of Buckfast.
Probably the first time he's seen a bottle of Buckfast.
Yeah, probably. He probably was like, what the fuck is that? But as far as I'm concerned, I said at the time, it's moronic behaviour. It achieves nothing. It causes issues for the club because the club could get a fine for that. But also, if that hits somebody, if that hit the Celtic goalkeeper, which I believe that's who it was aimed at, that could cause serious injury. It's a glass bottle. That hits and shatters. That could be serious. And I find it disgraceful. It's happened many times, too many times in Scottish football, not just involving Rangers and Celtic. There's been coins thrown in Hearts Hibs games. Obviously, Neil Lennon got hit with a coin a few years back. There was the Hibs supporters who threw the half bottle of vodka on the park that had hit Katic, I think it was at the time. What is it that you're achieving when you do that? You know, quite frankly, I don't get it. It's a blot on the club, and those people should be identified and they should receive, as far as I'm concerned, the stadium ban because it's not acceptable behaviour. In terms of the tifo, I must admit I didn't think much of it at the time when I seen it when the game started. It's borderline, I would say that. I think it's close to overstepping the mark. I don't necessarily agree with the slogan underneath it and the gun. I think that's maybe a bit slightly over the top. and you have to be bold enough to call out your own fans as well when you do that. And Patrick Stewart, I think, is right in one hand to call out our fans' behaviour for being moronic. Where I think he's wrong, and where I think I'm disappointed at the statement he made, is there was not a single mention of the behaviour of the Celtic fans and the mocking of the 66. Now, I don't mind calling out our own fans for being idiots, because I've done that there, and I will continue to do it regardless if I get criticism for that or not. However, it's not a one-way street. You know, we've just got away fans back into the grounds again for Old Firms, and I don't think it's a stretch to say that at Parkhead last month, the Rangers fans actually behaved admirably. You know, there were no real issues for the Rangers fans at Parkhead. Not that I seen, maybe somebody will correct me on that, but as far as I'm aware, there were none. Celtic fans get back into Ibrox today, and one of them sees fit to do that. It is a disgrace to mock the dead. And look, I understand the world we live in, the bubble that we're in Glasgow, and these things, unfortunately, happen. You know, whether it's not the first time this season alone or any other season that people have mocked the Ibrox disaster, which is, you know, people need to understand the severity of that. 66 people lost their lives, including children. That's who you're mocking when you do that. That's who you're mocking. And not only that, at the time that happened, there were Celtic players and the Celtic management team who were actually at some of the funerals of the 66 who passed away. It's the same when people on our end will mock, like Tommy Burns, for example, on his death. Well, Walter Smith and Alan McCoy's carried his coffin, so they were good friends. And so you don't do that. Or Fernando Rickson. That, to me, is a line you do not cross, and there should be consequences. That, again, much like the idiot that threw the bottle, that idiot also needs to be identified, and he needs to be banned as well. Also, Celtic need to stop sitting on their hands with this stuff, and as with Rangers, and only calling it out as a one-way street. And actually, they have to call out that behaviour as well, because they'll call out what happened with the ball being thrown, rightly so, but it will not be mentioned, the behaviour of their fans. And I just think it has to stop. I don't know how you stop it, but it does. The whole thing is disgraceful. But our club, our board, seem so intent on calling out only Rangers fans. And only having a go at us and not looking at the wider picture today. You know, yes, there was terrible behaviour for Rangers fans, but there was also terrible behaviour for that Celtic fan. And yeah, moronic. These people need to give them hell. Their heads are wobble and understand. You know,
the Rangers board for too long have been too quick to condemn their own support without backing them up when they need backed up at the same time. I've agreed with certain things with the Rangers board have come out. Not that my opinion matters, it's just my own opinion. But at the same time, they almost seem scared to go after anybody else apart from their own support. To me, Craig. And I'll be honest with you, the TIFO is Graham Souness clay pigeon shooting. Right? I get it if UEFA are going to come down on Rangers. I don't know why UEFA would, because it's in the Scottish League, but if the Rangers board feel that by coming out and making some kind of statement it's going to save the club for getting a fine or whatever, then say whatever you want. But I think it's overly harsh. I think it was a TIFO with a full stand. I think it was I don't think it's offensive personally. If it was the other way about, I would be looking at it going, oh no, okay. But I don't think there's anything about it that's really overly offensive.
No, but I think if you put yourself in the position where, and we've had this discussion before about people being offended by stuff, but if you put yourself in a position where people could take offence to it, I think Rangers will put out tifos for European nights and they're brilliant. The fans can put out whatever they want.
Yeah, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right.
No, of course. But I think I think one of the comments earlier said it was close enough to the line that the acceptable line. And for me, I mean, I commented straight away and was like, that's going to put the club in a bit of mess, because somebody will complain about it. The SFA, who don't need much prompting to make an example out of Rangers, will probably do that. And I think if you're putting yourself in a position where that can happen to the club, it's only going to come down on the club. If anything does come from it, on the side of the bottle throwing.
Well, then you fight the SFA. You don't bow down to them, Craig, and go, right, well, we'll just not say anything and we'll have a go at our own fans, even though they're having a go at us for for very little, in my opinion. If it was a purely sectarian banner, then yeah, fair enough. Absolutely. Come down on the support, no problem, because then you are putting the club at risk. I just think that was a wee bit mental to go after, to bring out a statement, just like Connor says, just purely having a go at Rangers supporters when you've got idiots like that Celtic fan in the crowd. I thought it was overly harsh. Anyway, moving on from that, Connor. Barry also said there in that post-match that he feels that, not that this really matters now, look, the game finished 1 each, it's over and done with, the season's nearly done, that we deserved the 3 points. I'll be honest, I think it was a pretty even game.
It was a fairly even game. I mean, look, the irony of it is that we had some big chances in that first half. I mean, Big Balogun could have put us ahead within the first minute, which, would have been, a near symmetry to what happened in the last game when we went ahead so early. Unlucky to see his effort come off the bar. I think he can maybe do a bit better with it in terms of just directing it downwards. As it does just sort of come off the top, he said, and he just gets the power, but not so much the direction. So that's unlucky. Urenev, obviously, Raskin. I mean, talk about fine margins in football, Martin. It's a tight offside. He is off. There's no complaints about it. A tight one, again, that goes against you. You have to ask, because it wasn't just him. Every single one of our players had went off, and I don't know why they went so quick. For that free kick, it seemed, that maybe is something that needs a bit of working on in the training ground, as Barry keeps alluding to, because for Oilam to go in that quick just seems a bit mental. And there were obviously other moments besides that as well that you can look upon. Look, I think the goal they score is two things for me. It's partially poor defending. Soapy's got to clear it properly and not just hit it off of Maeda. There's a panic there that sets in. But also it's such bad luck. It really is. It's not the best shot for either. It takes a deflection on its way in. I think there's question marks over Dyson Maeda's positioning. Because, yes, when Ida first gets the shot away, Kelly can make a movement, but don't underestimate how difficult it is as a goalkeeper to actually try and get a hand on it or judge how far along you need to dive when someone is actually stood right there. I mean, he was here, he was to the left of him, and he was at the corner, the ball went in. Now, all I'm saying is, it's one of those ones that I think they can go either way. I think there's some days you might actually get that. Given as offside, there's other days like today where you won't. And that's just, the nature of the beast. I think what amplified the feeling of aggrievement with it, Martin, was that the officiating the whole game was so poor.
Oh, so poor. So poor.
Nothing for Nick Walsh. That was summed up perfectly by the fact that they had 18 fouls. Callum McGregor, multiple times committing fouls. He was even given a warning. Bailey Rice comes on the park. 2 minutes, he makes one foul, and he's booked straight away. Not even given a warning, not even... And you go, well, hold on. Wait a minute here. How can Callum McGregor make 5-6 fouls, not get a booking, despite the fact you spoke to him at least twice, but wee Bailey Rice is booked immediately?
Aye, and to be fair, the Bailey Rice one was a booking.
Of course, I'm not disputing that.
In the aspect of any football game, it's a booking. But like you quite rightly say, Connor, Callum McGregor just gets the freedom of Ibrox to go and do whatever he wants. And the referees, I mean, I think has he been sent off once, I think, against us? But 9 times out of 10 in these games, Callum McGregor can do whatever he wants.
He can do, yeah. I thought Craig was going to come in there. It does seem that way. And then you've got to look at as well, also involving Callum McGregor, is the penalty shout. Now, we played a clip of Barry Ferguson's immediate reaction, but he's since been in a press conference and he has said that as far as he's concerned, if it's outside the box, it's a free kick. He clearly thinks it's a penalty, but he said he didn't want to say much more next time, would get himself into trouble. Which tells you, what his thoughts are without him telling you. I tend to agree. Think about it. Hadji went off injured straight after that. He had to be taken off. He's clattered through the back of him. It's clumsy. For Callum McGregor, it is what it is. And Kevin, if you heard the rest of my comments, I said it was one of those goals that can go either way sometimes.
I would be raging if that was chopped off for us. I would be.
I agree. That's why I said it's one of those ones that you're not surprised if it goes either way, because it can do. I've seen much lesser infringements for offside positions result in a goal being chopped off as well, just as I've seen heavier ones not be. So that's all I'm saying. It's 50-50 for me. The penalty's not 50-50. And VAR checking and clearing it so quickly, I can't get, because that to me was not one of those situations where you could look at it within 2 seconds and go, it's fine, no penalty.
At least
That
they checked
required
it
a
this
couple
time.
of looks, barely. So there is reason to feel annoyed, but that seems to be, like, I'm one of these people. I don't subscribe to certain notions, but it does seem to be a running theme over the last couple of years that we are not getting decisions in these games. You know, whether it's the League Cup final when, I mean, Willie Collum and everybody else came out and said we're denied what should have been a Stonewall penalty, whether it's today where you feel that should be a penalty kick. It just seems to be when your luck's no one, it's no one. You know, when things go for you, they go for you, and that's just what's happened. So, I'm slightly disappointed in that aspect, especially how often McGregor was. He's becoming the new Scott Brown in terms of just letting him get away with whatever he likes. And the thing is, see if somebody snaps back at him, they'll end up getting sent off. If somebody decides, you know what, I'm going to go in and just leave one on him, they'll end up getting sent off. And so you're in a catch-22 because you want your players to stand up for themselves, but you don't want them to go over the slow. So
I'll be honest, right? Controversial opinion, but I'll be honest. See if we don't get sent down the leagues in 2012 and have to work our way back up and then get back up and get ran so poorly in terms of signings and director of football. See if life had just carried on the way it was going, where Celtic 1-2, Rangers 1-2, Rangers 1-1, Celtic 1-1. Callum McGregor would be at Arbroath and Dunfermline now. I genuinely think he's an extremely overrated player. I think it's been shown in these games what can be done with him, and he's kept basically out the game. When was the last time he performed in an Old Firm game? I think he's extremely overrated, an extremely overrated footballer. I mean, yeah, look, in terms of the penalty, Craig, right? I'll be honest. The only reason for me that that's a penalty is because, and I can't find the comment and I forgot to start it, the Hadji with Hibs, right?
Yeah.
Which I didn't think was a penalty then, right? But if that's the criteria for a penalty, which I don't agree with, so I don't technically think this one today was a penalty, but going by the referee's own criteria, that absolutely should be.
Yeah, it set the precedent. The one with Hadji was similar. For me, the minute the ball comes back to Hadji, he's about to take a shot and he gets clattered from behind. So for me, I screamed straight away that it was a penalty. And I could see that Hadji went straight down. And I thought they're going to look at it. Obviously, they did or didn't. Or if they did, it was very quick. I saw a comment earlier that said just because if it happened somewhere else on the pitch, it would be a foul there, but not a penalty. I disagree. I think anywhere else on the pitch, the player goes through the back. There was one earlier. Was it Engels? Engels was the same. He had one where the player come through the back of him, just he's about to take a touch, given a foul straight away. Mm-hmm. Obviously, like Connor said, it meant Hadji had to go off, which I almost missed. I didn't. Obviously, I saw the little graphic at the bottom that said Royce had come on to him, and at first I thought it was a mistake because I thought surely Hadji's not gone off because he's only just come on himself. So that must be a typo. But yeah, I think it was for me, I'd be claiming for a penalty. Going to the goal that they scored as well, I do agree with Connor that for me, yes, he's not in the direct line of Liam Kelly, but he is in his peripheral vision. My dad used to be a referee, and his fault to offside is if you're on a football pitch, you're interfering with someone. So for me, it should be this. It shouldn't be a goal, even though he's not directly in his eye line. It doesn't stop him diving. He has to be aware that my head is there. So I would be screaming. I wouldn't be happy if it were disallowed for us, but also I know that their fans, if it had happened the other way around and we'd scored it and it had been given, they'd be looking at inquiries and kicking off straight away.
That's what they do.
I
don't think it should have been chopped off, and I know I should be saying the opposite. I think Kelly's got space to dive. I think he can see the ball clearly. I don't see any reason why that goal should have been chopped off, if I'm being honest. I think actually, if you want to take a closer look at that goal, Connor, John Souttar's so poor in the clearance, so lazy, Connor, in the clearance.
He is, and do you know the thing is, it's about awareness as well. You know, when he goes out there, you're not going to just kick the ball through Maida. You know, you've got to absolutely just blooter that. You know, if you put it in the stands for a throw in, well, do you know what? See, even if he takes the safest of the safe options and just knocks it out for a corner kick, fine. You regroup, you get yourself back into a shape and you deal with it. Because to be fair, I actually felt we done okay for corner kicks today. You know, the corner kicks he had didn't cause us an awful lot of problems for a change. So, you know, you that's for me a better option. But it's as you say, it's a lazy clearance, and you know, yes, it's fortunate that the way it bounces off Maida, it happens to fall at Adam Ida's boots, because again, that's something that doesn't always work out that way. And then obviously he gets the deflection as well, which I think helps it, because I think if it's not deflected, I think it's probably more central in the goal rather than right in the corner, and maybe Kelly gets a better chance of saving it.
No, Kelly saves it. It's not deflected.
It's poor defending for Sutter and then an unlucky deflection. But that's something you need to work on, because Alex said it during the game. Do not gift Celtic a goal. Don't gift them opportunities. And by the way, see, before that, when we talk about the first half, we gifted Celtic some opportunities that we got lucky with. You know, there was a loose pass that sent them in. There was Kelly passed it straight to them, and we're caught in a 3-1. He has to make 2 saves rushing out 1-on-1 right at the end. With Maida as well getting through. We're lucky that Maida makes the wrong choice there, by the way, because he takes a touch too many, and it's a heavy one that allows Kelly to save it. Because actually,
if a lot of that came for the formation, Connor.
Maybe, but if Maida picks his head up, then they've got Johnny Kenny through for a tap-in. So, you know, we've got to be making sure these mistakes don't happen in these games, and that's where we've let ourselves down at times. Celtic don't need any help for us to score goals. You know what I mean? So it's it's frustrating, because we should do better with it in that situation. And you know what? If you do that and you walk out there winning 1-0 the day, then you know at least you can go, well, do you know what, lads? It's a decent defensive effort. Because when's the last time we kept a clean sheet? You know, not just at home, but in general, we are leaking goals. So to a degree that it's not even funny. So yeah, it's a poor one for Soapy, who I thought apart from that had a fairly decent game today, but unfortunately that one not so much. And to be fair to Liam Kelly, as I said, he does pull off 2 point blank saves. I mean, the first one for Ida, that he's 1-on-1, that save then directly leads to us going up the other end and scoring. That's how important that moment is in the game.
And he saved us right at the very end of the game as well.
Souttar's not the only one. Do you remember it happened to Ben Davis? Ryan Jack had a similar one where he didn't put the ball out and it ended up with a goal. So 3 times in recent years, we can say our inability to actually clear the ball out for him, just like Connor said, put it out for a corner and regroup, has cost us multiple goals against them.
Yeah, and I thought Balogun, I thought was tremendous today. You know, with the Jim Carrey mask on, I thought he was superb. Actually, I feel that Craig Kelly, I thought actually, barring obviously that bad pass, which he has every now and then, still not quite as bad as Butland at the old passing. I thought again Kelly done really well.
Yeah, did what he had to do. Like Connor said, he had a couple of really good saves. The one that obviously leads to our goal, the one right at the end, I did have a momentary panic. I thought, here we go, they're going to get this last minute winner, and obviously he keeps it out. But everything else that he had to do, he did well. He just did the simple stuff. I was at no point really. No point was I really worried with him in goal. Obviously, the one obviously the pass that he made was not great, but like you say, Butland.
Craig, were you worried at any point through the game?
A couple of points.
No, not worried.
Yeah, when they first started in the first half, back to the first 10-15 minutes, I think the guy said in the watch along, it looked like there was a goal coming at one point. It just looked like it was going to be a matter of time. And then the only other thing was obviously with the 7 minutes of injury time, I was just waiting for one chance that they would have, and I thought it's happened before. it'll probably happen again in the future. I thought it was going to be something to happen. So when I saw that misplaced pass and Maeda went through, who I'll put my colours to the mast, I think is a very limited footballer, but what he does well. And I thought he's just gonna put this away. He seemed to have Tav on toast most of the game, and it just that was the only couple of times where I thought I was under any sort of panic. But apart from that, it just seemed like it was one of those games where both teams, after about 75 minutes, were quite content with what they got.
And by the way, I seem to be taking quite a bit of flack, and no doubt it's probably been clipped up already. I didn't do that on purpose, Connor. I really, really didn't. But I will stand by my comment. Callum McGregor is extremely overrated. Would Callum McGregor get into Martin O'Neill's Celtic team? I don't think he would. Would he get in ahead of Neil Lennon or Petrov or any of those? Moravchik? He gets
Yeah,
in
but
on that team. No, I'm
that's
sorry. Do you want to know why I'm saying he's overrated? He was crap for Scotland, right? He was mince for Scotland. He was mince in Europe whenever he came up against any decent teams. He's never been wanted by anybody down south. So I'm not going to sit and have people shouting at me in the comments that Callum McGregor's one of the best centre mids that Scotland have ever produced. He's bang average footballer. Bang average footballer. But Connor, Barry also said that we lacked quality, which I agree. We absolutely did. The goal was a bit of quality, though.
It was a bit of quality. And do you know the irony about it is that me and Alex were sitting saying just seconds before it, Essers hasn't done enough fault in this first half. You know, he was quiet. To be fair, as I said at the time, just because he scored doesn't mean we were unfair to say that before then, because before then it was true. You know, the chances that had came our way to that point, none of them had fallen to Cyril Dessers. It had been Raskin, it had been Bargain, it had been Cherny, you know, and so it felt as if he was being a bit of a passenger. But he obviously stayed on his toes and stayed alert. Don't underestimate the role Cherny plays in it, by the way. The dummy, you know, the footballing intelligence to recognise Dessers behind him. Maybe Dessers gives him the shout as well, and dummy that and let it roll through. It takes Cameron Carter-Vickers out of the equation, which is so important to this goal, because he's then not out there on that right-hand side to try and come in and help his defender block it. He holds off the defender well, Dessers, and it's a good finish into the bottom corner. It really is a good finish. It's where he frustrates you into it, because you just go, you know, I said this in the watch along, and some people were vociferously against me, and others not so much. There's part of my head that says, do you know, if you could actually negotiate properly with him, keep him next season, why not? You know, he's scored, I think, 43, 44 goals now for the clubs over 2 seasons, back-to-back 20-plus goal seasons. Yes, we haven't won the league title in those seasons. That's not all on Cyril Dessers. You know, quite frankly, yes, if he takes half the chances he misses, he probably scores 30 or 40 goals for you. So he is incredibly frustrating. But if you're looking at, you know, 25 goals a season, and you've got him as one of your backups, for example, you know, your main number 2, if you bring in a better quality striker for the number 1 role, why not? Because let's not forget, by the way, he scored that many goals this season, despite the fact that he was dropped for a number of games. When Egerman came into form, he got dropped and was out for weeks, and was barely getting a few minutes here and there. And so you have to give him credit where it's due, because whilst I get the frustration with him, and I feel it as well, I also don't believe in this side of the debate that seems to be, we'll just criticise Dessers regardless. You know, that he's all bad, that we always have to criticise him. You can't give him praise for anything. He deserves praise today because he got one chance and he took it. Mm-hmm. And it was one chance, because in the second half...
No, Connor, he had an absolute peachy chance in the second half that he's got to score. Connor, he's like 5 yards out and the ball's right at his feet. He's got to score that. That's easier than the goal.
What chance is that?
Craig?
Was that the one that he air kicked?
Yes.
Yeah. He's about 10 yards out in the air kicked.
No, he's not. He's about 6 yards out.
I thought he was close to the penalty spot. I'd have to watch it again.
Right in the just by the 5.
Yeah, that one I was screaming, because that was like the enigma that is Dessers, that he can put that one away first half, and the one that drops to him second half that you just want him to put in the corner, he just completely air kicks.
All he's got to do is connect with it.
Because behind him, and you just like that to me is where I have again firmly nailed my colours to the mast for Dessers in the past. He doesn't score. If he's a backup striker next season, he doesn't score 25 goals because he doesn't play the minutes to get 25 goals. But he would maybe score 10 or 12 goals. And there'd be 10 or 12. He would do a similar role to what Itten played a few years back, where he'd come on and get goals when we needed goals.
Mhm.
Dessers has scored 25 goals this season, has scored 20 goals last season because he plays the majority of the minutes. I agree with Connor that if he put half the chances away that he'd score, he'd get 35, 40 goals and he wouldn't be playing for Rangers. Yes, he gets 20 goals, but that's because and I'm nearly 40, overweight and can't kick a ball. If I had the minutes that Dessers played, I'd probably get most all the way over to 20 goals. But I personally wouldn't. We need better. We need better.
Of course we need better.
He's not a main striker. If he could stay as the second or third striker, then I wouldn't be too disappointed. But we can't go into another season with him as the main man.
Can I ask a question, Martin? Though, who is that better option? And I tell you why I asked that, right? Because every single other name of a striker that has been linked with us, half the fans, nah, he's shite, don't want him. Last year, Shanklin bangs in, 25 goals for Hearts, 30 goals, for Hearts. Nah, he's not good enough. We don't want him, so don't go and sign him. Then there's the links that came out recently with Jamie Vardy. Now, I'm not saying he's a solution. Said that, no, what's wrong? Nobody's saying that. But again, okay, he's 38, but he could do a Jermaine Defoe type role. And nobody had a problem with him coming in at that age. So, and the difference is, unlike Jermaine Defoe, Jamie Vardy's got a Premier League winning medal at Leicester. Now, despite that, again, I'm not saying he's a solution, but again, people are no him, it's not him. We can't keep having situations where names get flung out there and we just absolutely shite it and go, nah, it can't be him. Because we have to recognise that, yes, this ownership model's coming in. Yes, we'll have some money. But then the dynamics of where we are right now, in terms of being in Scotland and all the rest of it, right? We cannot afford to go and buy absolutely the best in class. Whoever we buy, there's going to be arguments you can make against buying that player because that's where we are. It's the same with them. They spent £9 million for Adamida. Plenty of arguments says why you shouldn't do that.
Oh, by the way, that's a dreadful signing.
It is a dreadful signing. But my point is, you have to sign somebody. And I don't know who that is that's going to be acceptable to the Rangers fans.
That's a dreadful signing, and 13 million for Engels as well, if that's what they paid for him, is horrendous. By the way, he couldn't lace one of Raskin's boots, Engels. It's not a fan's job to scout our next number 9. Dessers is not good enough. And Linden has put, if I can find it, well, he's put Dessers is much better than either. That would not be difficult. That boy,
I agree with that. 100%.
That boy's decent at holding the ball up, but he can't really do much with it, and he got lucky for his goal. £9 million for him. That was a wow. That's like, if we spent that on a player, I mean, we spent £7 million on Kent, and at least we got something at him. But it's not our job to determine who the new striker's going to be. It's the scouting department and the board, Connor. Job to determine who the new striker's going to be. They have to get it right.
Yeah, but poo-pooing every name they come out with is not helpful either.
But doesn't that, we could poo-poo every single name they come out with. If they sign one of their players and they go on to be a really good striker, then we sit here and go, well, we got that wrong, but I don't care because look what they're doing. It's not up to us.
I know, but again, the point still stands. We are in a position, and it's not just us. We have a fan base, much like theirs, much like Celtics as well, much like a lot of fan bases that just, regardless, are going to find reasons to complain about who we sign, and I get that. Listen, when we announced the signing of Cyril Dessers and Sam Lammers, I was, at the time, not on the podcast. I was a phoner on the Monday night phone-ins we used to do, and I phoned up.
Caller, they're called.
A caller, and I had this debate, and I said, I'm not so sure about these guys, because between the two of them, for the last few seasons professionally, they had barely scored any goals. But Dessers has come in, and despite the frustrations, he's proven me wrong, because he is actually scored tenfold the amount of goals he had before he came to us. And Sam Lammers, at the time, was never played as a striker when he came to us, despite the fact he was signed as a striker. Now, all I'm saying is, we have to sign somebody. That person needs time. I don't want players coming into our club and all the online discourses immediately telling them how bad a player they are, because that for the off can be you need. That's why you need experienced players as well who know how to deal with it.
Two things on that, Connor. Right. First of all, see if the board care what the fans think of somebody that they're trying to sign, and it stops them from signing that player, they shouldn't be the board, right? They shouldn't be in charge of the football club. They shouldn't be making decisions, because if that's the case, just give us all a job, right? Second of all, if we sign a player, right, who reads online forums where the fans are saying he's no good, he's rubbish, and he can't handle it, shouldn't be at a football club. Shouldn't be here.
No. But what I'm saying is, this is why you need experienced players as well, who can handle that, who won't be bothered by it. If you're bringing in a younger lad, that can, in the early stages, have an impact. Look at Czerny. When Czerny first came in, he struggled mentally to deal with it, because he was getting absolute pelters. And do you know what? He deserved a lot of it at the time. And that came to a head in the Lyon game, when you could see his head went at Ibrox and he had to get taken off the park. But do you know what? He improved since then, because he learned from it and he got better. And he obviously had people putting the arm around him and helping him as well. Now, what I'm saying is, you're going to get that potentially if you sign younger players. So you need an experienced head coming in there as well that can do the job. We can't keep signing project players that can't handle the pressure for the off. It's fine doing that.
We can't be signing many project players moving forward, period.
No, I agreed. But as I'm saying, get experience in. And if that is somebody like Jamie Vardy for a year, and it's just a case of, Jamie, come in, do a job for us for a year, help some of the young lads along the way, why not? You know, again, not just him, any other experienced striker you can think of who's out there as well that we could afford to bring in. Why not? Why not do it?
Can I also point out, Craig, for myself today anyway, that Nico Raskin for me was head and shoulders above every other player on the park. And I thought he showed today why he is by far the best player in Scotland, by a mile.
I would agree on the whole game. For the first, say, 70 minutes, I'd put Conor Barron up there as well. Because I think Conor Barron was fantastic. Did what he needed to do, and let the other players play. Broke everything up. Up to that point, it was a tie between man of the match. But yeah, I agree. Raskin was fantastic. The only thing I would like to have seen him done was give back what he got from McGregor when he was decided to start pushing him around. But that's the only thing I would like to see, because he's normally pretty good at standing up to him. And I just thought
Well, what he did was he outplayed him and embarrassed him with his play.
But yeah, he was fantastic. Going back to the striker scenario, one thing I would like us to do, and I think it worked well when we won the league, was we didn't really have a main striker that season. We had Morelos, Roof, and Defoe, who all played their parts. Could we see ourselves in a situation where we have strikers for certain games, rather than spending a lot of money on somebody like I won't even say like an Adamida, because he's obviously not worth the money they paid for him, but going out and paying for one main striker who then you have to put all your pressure on. Let's say we get, let's say, for example, throw some names out. Let's say we had a strike force next season of Cyril Dessers, Jamie Vardy, and Lawrence Shankland, just for 3 names out the top of my head. They could all play a certain amount of minutes, all contribute, rather than putting all of it on Dessers' shoulders or Danilo's shoulders, obviously, when he does play. I would like to see us go down that route potentially, of where we should, because we've said for a long time we need more goals around the team, and that would actually help us if we had maybe 2 free strikers who can share the load, and then we're not putting that much pressure on one.
I'll be honest, the Vardy chat seems strange to me for a few reasons. One, it would be a gamble. And
It was just a name.
No, I get you. I know. But one, it would be a gamble. And 2, I don't think the wages are worth the gamble. To be brutally honest, I think it would be.
Was Jermaine Defoe not a gamble?
Yeah, but he wouldn't be on anywhere near the wages that Vardy will want.
No, but he was still on a decent wage, and you can negotiate that again. This is where the club have a responsibility to negotiate the best deal for the club. If they can't get that, then you move on. That's what you do. There's nothing wrong with the club having a list of names.
Vardy comes here for any less than 40 grand a week. No way.
And you might be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is that's on the club to make sure that there's in the scout department to make sure there's a list of names there, and they can go through and go, right, who's the top guy that you want? Who's your number 1 pick? And you go out and try and get him. If you can negotiate terms that are suitable to the club and the player, then you move on and you move to the next, person, and you go, right, let's get a deal for him. Don't forget, we've had. I mean, look at Studios is asking about Danilo as well. We signed Danilo for £6 million, Martin, and he won't be on a small wage either. And what's he's been injured most of the time. Now, does he get another year at the club next year to try and see if we can get something out of him? Possibly. Because you're probably in a position of not many people going to want to buy him off the back of this season just because he's been so injury prone. So maybe we have to keep him for a year. Sort of talking about Callum Wilson from Newcastle. Well, he'll be a free agent.
Absolutely not. Not a chance in hell.
Well, let me finish the sentence, Mark.
And he'd be on more money than Vardy.
He'll be a free agent. He'll be a free agent at the end of the season because his contract's up and he is leaving Newcastle. What I would say though is that Callum Wilson falls into the game on this bracket of he can't keep himself fit. He's a top striker. Make no bones, he is a top striker. He just can't keep himself fit.
Right. Listen, we're going to move on for the Vardy and Wilson chat, right? Because we don't have a lot of time left. But yeah, just on that, no. Vardy's a non-starter. Callum Wilson's an absolute non-starter. And I don't want any of the Rangers players' wives getting upset. So Vardy's definitely a non-starter. But Connor, just I have to agree with what Craig said there. I thought that one of Connor Barron's best games in the Rangers shirt. Only eclipsed for me again, Connor, by Nico Raskin, who proved to me today that he is the best player in Scotland.
Not so sure about that part, but yeah, he had a great game today. Connor Barron, he did. I thought, particularly the first half, he done so well. I actually think the midfield three and throughout the first half done well. Barron, Raskin, and Bayrami, much maligned Bayrami, but he kept McGregor quiet for a lot of that first half, which is the job he was brought in to do. And to be fair, he done it well. Barron again. It's his tenacity at times, Martin, that really impresses me. The guy doesn't score a lot of goals, but he's tenacious in the middle of that pitch. He wants to win that ball back. The amount of times he was getting in there and winning second balls back when it was breaking loose and not giving up on it. I like seeing that, particularly in games like this, because you cannot afford to give up on it and give the ball away in these games. So I think, absolutely, terrific performance here. On another day, he might have get man of the match, but Nico Raskin just was head and shoulders above today for me and his performance as well. But yeah, it was a solid midfield. I wish we could see that for the midfield on a consistent basis, because that's the frustration, Martin. You see games like the day and you go, well, that's what that midfield three are capable of doing. Why don't they do it more often if they're capable of it? Barron's been fairly consistent, although he had dropped off it slightly in recent weeks, but no, really impressed.
I think for at least the last 2 months, Nico's been pretty consistent. 2 to 3 months, he's been probably one of the best players on our team. Barron dropped off significantly, but I don't know if that was just trying to get used to the team, etc., etc. But Nico for me has been outstanding. I've got to bring up 2 super chats for Jim Sloan. Callum McGreeter is what he said there. Nice t-shirt, Martin. Yes, thank you very much. These are available. It even comes with the Rabo logo, so it's an official Rabo t-shirt at raboisland@gmail.com. Just message and ask for Donald. Give him your sizes. He'll let you know prices. And if it's something that you want, then it will be delivered to you. Make Rangers great again. And Jim Sloan again. Apologies for the first super chat, Martin. He's not that. He's a fanny. So that's Jim Sloan's opinion on Callum McGregor. I just don't think he's as good a footballer as what a lot of people think he is. That's as far as I'll go. But Jim, as ever, my friend, I hope you're enjoying your Sunday. And thank you very, very much for the support. And Big Brian, who's been a member for 6 months, Nico man in a match by a country mile for me. By an absolute country mile. Right, I think we shall leave it there. Unless there's anything else that I forgot to mention or bring up. Have I forgot anything? I don't think I have. Connor would usually tell me if I've forgot something. No?
Well, there was it was mentioned by Barry at his press conference. He was asked about that Czerny was not a happy man when he gets subbed off. But do you know what? I don't mind that, because it shows the passion and that he cares. And Barry said that himself. He's like, I don't want players smiling when they're coming off the pad. I want them to be happy to get subbed off, which is a good point. You want your players to want to stay on, but as a manager, you've got to make those decisions. At the time, it was the right decision, because as much as he was trying, he was starting to, you could just see him slightly tiring and fading. So there's nothing wrong with it. He done the same during the extra time against Fenerbahce, and he was about to get subbed off, and he said, no, keep me on. And to be fair, Barry did, but he ran himself to the ground. Do you know what I like that about him, though? That's a good quality to have, that he's willing to do that. It's why, if we could get the right deal, he is one that I would keep for next season. There's not many. He's one that I would keep if we could get the right deal on him.
Well, apparently he left his scoosh gun in the house, and that's why he was raging when he came out. Apparently, he remembered just as he was coming off the pitch that he's left it in the house, and he was raging. And Singing the Blues wants to know who won the PS5. The PS5 is still up for grabs, folks. If you spend £50 or more in the Rabble store, which is in the description below, and you send proof of your purchase to rabbleisland@gmail.com with your details, you're automatically entered into a draw to win a PS5. I was saying earlier, just in time for GTA 6, but apparently it's been put back to next year. But your brand new PS5 for the small sum of £50, you get entered into the draw. That's how you do it. Craig, Connor, thank you very much for joining me. We are back tomorrow, 12:30, for your afternoon rabble. So please make sure and join us then. For channel members, at 8 p.m. tonight, the Extreme Gaming podcast will be out. It's all set up and ready to go, and it will be out at 8 p.m. So members, enjoy that. Thank you very much for tuning in, folks. Thank you for all the super chats, the subscriptions, the likes, everything. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. And one final time, thank you, Connor. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, everybody. And we shall speak very, very soon.